Okay, so let's get started. To solve right triangles, first, when we say solve right triangles, it just means solve for all the missing sides and all the missing angles. So we'll give you various information. You're just going to have to find whatever's missing. All you're going to do is do SOHCAHTOA and Pythagorean theorem to figure out what's missing, right? If you have two sides, you can use Pythagorean theorem to find the last side. If you have two angles, you can just keep in mind the fact that all of the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. It's not going to be the same method every single time. It's just going to vary based on the information that they give you. Another thing to keep in mind is that the capital letters represent the angles and the lowercase letters represent the sides. All right, so let's just go through it. I think there's only 6 examples here. Okay, so let's look at this one. So we're given some information. We're given angle A and we're given side A, right? So let's label angle A. It's right here with what they give us, right? So 31, all right? So here's one of our angles, and then we also have that side A is 35.9 kilometers. All right, so what are we missing here? What other pieces of information do we need to find? Okay, good. We need to find this side, which is going to be side C. What else are we missing? The other side, right? This is side B. And then what else is missing? Good, angle B, right? What is angle C? 90 degrees, right? There's a right angle right there. So we have 90 degrees. All right. What's one piece of information that seems pretty easy to find? Angle B, right? How are we going to find angle B? Okay, so we're going to subtract this angle and the 90-degree angle from 180, right? Remember, every triangle, all the interior angles add up to 180. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so to find angle B, I'm going to do 180 minus 90, and then minus angle A that we're given. All right, so use your calculator. What does that get you for angle B? Good, right? 58.33 degrees. All right, so that's one of our missing pieces of information. So now every angle we already found, right? We already know all of our angles. We have angle A, B, and C. Now let's try to find our sides. We're missing side B and side C. All right, one thing I forgot to mention, the sides are labeled with respect to what angle they're across. So if this is angle A, side A is going to be across. So this is side A, right? Do you see that this side is directly across this angle? All right, same thing here. This side C is directly across this angle right here, right? They should be directly across from each other. And then this is side B, it's directly across from this angle B, all right? But one thing that we're going to do if we only have one side is we're going to use SOHCAHTOA to figure out the leftover pieces of information. All right, let's start with finding side B, right? So let's try to find B. All right, so I already know that this angle right here is 58.33. So we can fill that in. You could either use angle A or angle B. I'm just going to use angle B, right? Using SOHCAHTOA, how do we label this side, B? Opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse? What is this going to be? Okay, good. So this is the opposite. All right, and then you always want to use some piece of information that you're given, right? You're given side A. What is side A with respect to angle B? Good, right? The adjacent. Is there any trig ratio that relates the opposite with the adjacent? Tangent, right? Remember, SOHCAHTOA, TOA, tangent of angle B, is the opposite over the adjacent. So all we're going to do is we're going to fill in the information that we're given, right? I know that angle B is 58.33, so this is going to be tangent of 58.33 degrees. Equals, we know that our opposite is side B, over our adjacent is side A, so 35.9. The only thing that's missing here is side B, right? How can we get that by itself? So it's B divided by, what's the opposite of dividing? Multiplying. So let's multiply both sides by 35.9. And then these cancel out, and then we get side B is equal to 35.9 times tangent of 58.33. All right, so then this is where you use your calculator. You're going to do 35.9 times, find the tangent button, and then do 58.33. All right, what does that get us for side B? I think it says to the nearest tenth, so 1 decimal place, right? What does that get us? Good, so it should get you 58.2. This is 58.2, the unit is kilometers, so kilometers, right? And that's our other side. All right, so now we have an angle B, we have side B. What's the only thing that's missing? C, right? Side C. All right, so how are we going to find that if we already have two sides? Nice, right? Use Pythagorean theorem, right? If you already have 2 out of your 3 sides, just do Pythagorean theorem, right? Don't forget a squared plus b squared is c squared. So then you're going to plug in the information that you're given, right? A is 35.9 squared plus b squared is 58.2 squared equals c squared. So again, just plug this into your calculator, 35.9 squared plus 58.2 squared. When you do this, you get kind of a big number. All right, something like that. Equals c squared. This gets us c squared. To get c, what do we do to both sides? Square root, right? So square root both sides. And then when you square root this big number, right, hopefully we know how to do that in our calculators. We should get 68.4 kilometers. Right, did we find every side? Yeah. Did we find every angle? Yeah, so this triangle is solved. All right, so some of these are a little bit time consuming. That's why your quiz next week isn't going to be like a crazy amount of questions, just because they're all a little bit time consuming. If you're looking at it all together, it probably looks kind of confusing, but if you do more of these, I mean, it's directly the exact same thing of what you guys saw in geometry. This is just a review of it. But looking at the whole thing, it might look a little confusing, but each part of it should be fairly okay. All right, good with this example? Okay, good. All right, let's try this one. So again, let's first label the information that we're given, right? We're given side C, which is 89.6 centimeters. The other thing that we're given is angle B, 47.8 degrees. What is angle C? Good, right? It's a right angle, so this is 90 degrees. All right, what does that mean we can very easily find now? Good, right? So subtract those two angles to get angle A. So I know that the measure of angle A is going to be 180 minus 90 minus 47.8. Type that in your calculator. What do we get? Nice. So then we get that the measure of angle A is 42.2 degrees. All right, and I'm just going to write that in the triangle. All right, are you okay with that? So we found one of our angles. That means all of our angles are okay, right? We have a hypotenuse. We just want to find the two legs now, right? Which two trig ratios use a hypotenuse? Think about SOHCAHTOA. Yeah, sine and cosine. So it doesn't matter which one you use, but you know that it's going to be one of the two, right? Because you need a hypotenuse. That's what you're given. Let's just say I want to use, I don't know, let's say I want to find side A. All right, we're missing side A. Let's try to find side A, right? What can we do to find A? Okay. Okay, so we're going to do something with that number, but you're going to need to use one of your two angles. You're either going to need to use angle A or angle B, right? Let's say we use angle A, right? How can we label side A with respect to angle A? Right, this is an opposite side. So we need an opposite, and we have a hypotenuse. What relates the opposite with the hypotenuse? Sine, right? So I'm going to use sine of 42.2 equals the opposite A over the hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is 89.6. All right, are we okay with that, guys? So you're just using SOHCAHTOA to figure out which ratio to use. All right, and then we want A. How do we get A by itself? Good, right? Multiply by 89.6 on both sides. So times 89.6. And then those cancel out, and then we get side A is equal to 89.6 times sine of 42.2. All right, so then you use your calculator, 89.6 times sine of 42.2. What does that get you? To 1 decimal place. Nice, right? 60.2. And then the unit here is centimeters, right? So centimeters. All right. So we have an angle. We have 2 out of our 3 sides. How do we find the third side? Yeah, right, use Pythagorean theorem. So let's do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right. We know that A is 60.2. We just found that. 60.2 squared. We don't know what B is. So it's going to be B squared equals 89.6 squared. And then we try to solve for B, right? So we're going to do 60.2 squared, which is going to get us 3,624.04. Plus b squared, and then you're going to do 89.6 squared. So you get 8,028.16. And then you want to get b squared by itself. So let's subtract 3,624.04 from both sides. And then that cancels out, and then you get b squared is whatever we get when we subtract this. All right, looks like it gets us 4,404.12. Bless you. And then to get b, just b, we're going to square root both sides. So then b equals whatever we get when we square root this. It looks like it's going to get us 66.4 centimeters. All right, are we okay with that? Kind of a long process, I know, but we just found 3 pieces of information that we're missing. I think your homework is only 6 questions, so shouldn't be that bad. but they're going to vary in some ways. All right, are you okay with this one? Any questions? Okay. All right, these two, do we see any triangles here? No, so let's draw one. All right, let's draw triangles. It tells you that C is the right angle. All right, so let's draw that out. All right, so just going to sketch a little triangle. And there's a right angle here, which I know is C. All right, and in number 3, it tells us that angle A is 61 degrees. We don't know what angle B is, but we know that side B is 39.2. 39.2 centimeters. All right, what pieces of information can we find now? Yeah, angle B, right? What's angle B? Okay, so we're going to do 180 minus the angles that were given. Good, right? Is going to get you 29. So we get angle B is 29 degrees. Let me write that on the side. The measure of angle B is 29 degrees, right? So that's one piece of information. All right. Now we need 2 of our sides. All right, let's just say we want to find side A. Right, which trig ratio can we use to find side A? Right. Well, first, is our A or B a hypotenuse? No, so we can't use anything with a hypotenuse. Which one are we going to use instead? Opposite and adjacent. Which one uses opposite and adjacent? Tangent, right? So let's use tangent to find side A. All right. You can either use angle A or angle B. It doesn't matter which one. I'm just going to use angle A. So let's do tangent of angle A, which is 61 degrees. So tangent of 61 equals the opposite over the adjacent, 39.2. All right, and then how do we get A by itself? Good, right? Multiply both sides by 39.2. And then these cross out, so then we get side A is equal to whatever you get when we do 39.2 times tangent of 61 degrees, right? Type that in your calculator, see what you get. Good, right? So we get side A is equal to 70.7 centimeters. All right. So we have another side. What's the only thing now that's missing? Good, right? Side C, right? The hypotenuse, right? How are we going to find that? Pythagorean theorem, right? So we're going to use A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right. So we're going to do 39.2 squared plus 70.7 squared equals C squared. Type this in your calculator, see what you get. I believe it gets you this big number. Equals C squared. All right, and then you would square root both sides to get just the C value. And then we should get that side C is equal to 80.8 centimeters. Is anything missing, or did we find everything? Yeah, I think we found everything, right? We have all of our angles, we have all of our sides. So we know we're done. All right. The order in which you do things doesn't matter. Just look around, try to find the easiest pieces of information first. And then sometimes you'll have to do more steps to find everything else. All right, but are you okay with that one? Okay. Okay, so let's try the same thing with this one. All right, we don't see a triangle, so let's draw one. All right. So it doesn't matter how you label it, A, B, and C. The only thing that does matter is what is angle C? Angle C? It's 90, right? That was in the very top, right? So it tells you that C is the right angle. So that's 90. Let's label everything else. I have that side C is 29.7 meters. And then we have that angle B is 46 degrees, right? What can we easily find? Angle A, good. What's that going to get you? Should get you, I think, 44 degrees, right? So then we know that the measure of angle A is 44 degrees, right? So that's one piece of information that we have. All right, what else can we find? What if I want to find side A? What could we do to find side A? Okay, so we're going to use SOHCAHTOA to figure out side A. Right, what kind of sides are we given? Are we given legs or are we given a hypotenuse? Okay, a hypotenuse. So what does that mean? Which two trig functions can you use? Sine or cosine, right? It does not matter which one you use as long as you label everything correctly. Let's do something different than we did before, right? Let's say I want to try angle B. What kind of side is A with respect to angle B? The adjacent, right? So what are we going to use here, sine or cosine? Cosine, right? So let's do cosine of 46 is going to equal A, our adjacent, over our hypotenuse of 29.7. And then to get the A by itself, times 29.7 on both sides. All right, these cancel out. We get A is 29.7 times cosine of 46. And then again, you're just going to type that in your calculator to get your answer. And it looks like we get A is 20.6 meters. All right, are you okay with that? All right, very last thing we need is side B. All right, so we don't know what side B is, but we have two sides, so we're going to use Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to do A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And then we're going to try to find side B. So just plug everything in. We're going to do 20.6 squared plus B squared equals, 29.7 squared. All right, so plug everything in. This should get us 424.36 plus B squared, and then 29.7 squared should get you 882.09. And then we want to get B by itself, so I'm going to subtract 424.36 on both sides. All right. And then when we do that, we should get B squared is 457.73, and then you have to square root both sides. And then when you square root both sides, we should get side B is 21.4 meters. Let me zoom out. So again, finding each part of the triangle, it's going to vary in difficulty. Sometimes the numbers aren't super friendly, but for your upcoming quiz, you will have a calculator the entire time. As long as you know how to use it, that should help a lot. Okay, last two examples. These ones are slightly different just because look at the information that you're given. Right? Do we give you a side and an angle like we usually do? No, we're given two sides instead. We still are given, though, that angle C is the right angle, right? So let's still just draw it out. All right, so then this is angle C. It doesn't matter what A and B are. I'm just going to say that this is A, this is B. And we're given that side A is 958 meters. And side B is 489 meters. All right, so what piece of information can we pretty easily find? The other side, right? Because we have two sides, we can very easily find a third. So we can very easily find C, right? Let's use Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right, you're going to get pretty big numbers with this one. So 958 squared plus 489 squared equals C squared. Again, just plug this in your calculator. Should get you a pretty big number. 1156,885 equals C squared. All right, and then we can square root both sides. And then when we square root both sides, we should get to the nearest tenth, 1,075.6 meters. All right, so now we have all of our sides. All right, what are we missing now? Right, the angles, right? Let's just say we want to find angle A. All right, how can we do that? Let's use SOHCAHTOA again, right? It doesn't matter which one you use because now we have all of our sides, right? So we can use an opposite, an adjacent, and a hypotenuse. Let's just say I want to use tangent. Again, you can use sine or cosine as long as you label the fraction appropriately. So tangent of A, if I want to find tangent of A, I'm going to put what number over what number? Good, right? It's going to be the opposite over the adjacent, so it's going to be 958 over 489. All right, this is where it's a little bit different from the previous ones that we did, just because does this give you angle A or does it give you tangent of A? All right, if you look, it gives you tangent, right? This is tangent of A. This doesn't give you just our angle. All right, let's see if anyone remembers. All right, there was something that you guys did in geometry last year to get rid of this tangent, right? It's something in your calculator. Do you remember what it is? To just get the A by itself? Yeah, good, right? So if we remember from geometry, there was a little button, and it was tan with this -1, right? That just means tan inverse. If I do that to both sides, then you get rid of the tangent over here. And then you're just left with A equals tan inverse of this big fraction right here, 958 over 489. Do you know how to get that on our calculators? All right, hopefully we do. If not, it's going to be second. And then after second, you're going to hit the tangent button. So second tangent, and you should immediately see the tan with the -1. And then you're going to do 958 over 489. And then again, to the nearest tenth, I think this one rounds up. It's going to be 63 degrees. All right, now we have two of our angles. How can we find angle B? Yeah, right? Take the two angles that we have and subtract them from 180. So 180 minus 90 minus 63 should get you B is 27 degrees. All right, so that's the only time where it gets a little bit different. That's where you have to do something different in your calculator. All right, the next one's very similar, so I'll try that one, and that'll be it for today. That's really the entire lesson. So let's do the same thing, right? The next one, again, we're not given a triangle, so let's draw one. So this is angle C. Doesn't matter how we label the angles. I'm going to say that's A, that's B. We know that A is 26.5 and C is 39.7, right? What's one piece of information that we can easily find? Yeah, right, the other side. So let's do the same thing that we did before. Let's do Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. When we do this, we're going to get 26.5 squared plus B squared equals 39.7 squared. All right, so let's plug this into our calculators. We should get 702.25 plus B squared, and this is 39.7 squared, which is 1,576.09. And then we want to get the B squared by itself, so let's subtract 702.25. And then those cross out. And then we get B squared is whatever this is equal to. All right, so 873.84. Just like always, square root both sides, and we should get that B is 29.6 to the nearest 10th centimeters. All right, that's about as much work as you have to do in this problem, right, is Pythagorean theorem. But then now that we have that, we can easily find our angles. All right, so think about it. Let's say I want to try to find angle A. Right, which trig ratio can we use to find A? Yeah, right, opposite and a hypotenuse maybe, right? It doesn't really matter which one you use, right? Just keep in mind our opposite is going to be 26.5. Our hypotenuse is 39.7. So if we're going to use an opposite and a hypotenuse, let's do sine, right? So this is going to be 26.5 over 39.7, right? And then how do we get the A by itself? Good, right? So let's do sine with the -1 on both sides. And then that gets the A by itself. So then you get A is sine inverse of 26.5 over 39.7. Again, to get the sine -1, you're going to do second sine. And it's going to be 26.5 over 39.7. And then it should get you to the nearest 10th of 41.9 degrees. Bless you. And then lastly, to get our angle B, bless you, you're going to do 180 minus 90 minus 41.9. And then that should be super quick. It should get you 48.1 degrees. And then we solved our triangle. We found every side. We found every angle. So again, these take a long time. Again, there's only 6 problems on your homework. It only takes a long time because there's multiple parts to this problem. It's not like one huge problem. It's like there's like 3 things that we need to find within each one. All right, but that's it for today. That's it for this lesson. You guys can get started on your homework. As always, ask any questions if you have.